we are talking to OBGYN Dr. Julianne Birt and lovely ladies from almost every stage of womanhood, Portia Show viewers. Joining us today are Jewel, Tanetta, and Laverne. Dr. Birt, what kind of advice do you have for women in their 30s and in their 40s, like lovely 42-year-old Tanetta here?
Hi. So in the 30s, it's very important, if you have not started with your childbearing, to have those conversations early as possible. So before 35, a lot of women have that number in their head, and then to realize that we are starting to transition.
Right.
Even when you're in your late 30s, early 40s, things start to happen, mood changes,
right.
not just the
let me
menstrual.
apologize for interrupting. Just how old were you when you had your kids? You have two.
Yes, so I have a 17-year-old and a 15-year-old.
Okay.
And so I started in my mid-20s. I was about 24, 25 when I decided to start having kids. Yeah, and so since I've gotten that journey between being a mom and trying to maintain a healthy lifestyle, what are some of the things that you would suggest as gravity starts to take hold as we get older?
That's a very, I like how you put that, because it is taking hold. It is taking hold.
This 42-year-old body is not the same 20-some-year-old body before I started having kids, and so just maintaining that healthy lifestyle.
Balance and lifestyle. Dr. Birt, what do you
and I heard a little bit in there about stress.
Oh, yes.
Stress is major, especially chronic stress. So there's good stress and there's bad stress, but that everyday stress will begin to wreak havoc on our bodies. Inflammation can set in. There are studies after studies that will tell you inflammatory diseases, cancer. So you're gonna have to, decide what is worth it. For me, even in my career, I made decisions because of stress. I made decisions that, to help.
That's true.
Say, let it go.
To that point,
Yes.
I mean, I was 47, 48 when the stress of fibroids and all the other problems and issues with fibroids made me decide, you know what, I had conversations, got second opinions. I decided just to get the hysterectomy because it was just a nest full of them. And I was like, just get rid of the nest. I got two great kids. This is too much stress to manage. And so I know that that's something that a lot of women, I had the luxury of having two teens by that point, but that's a tough decision. But fibroids are also a big issue in this age group, in 40-somethings and 50-somethings.
And in African-American women, up to 90% of us can have fibroids. I'm almost surprised when a patient doesn't. But to that point, as our bodies are transitioning and we're getting closer to menopause, the changes, the perimenopause we like to say, you will notice not just the mood, but my periods have never been this heavy, people will say. My periods have never been this painful. I haven't had this much breast tenderness. Those changes will occur, can occur, and many women going through the change.
Right.
Absolutely.
And there are lots of ways to manage those treatments, right? I mean, the change. You've got hormone treatments. There are all kinds of options, but those can be hard to manage as well. But having a conversation with your mother, I have found, if that's an option, helps, right?
It does help, but unfortunately in our community, a lot of women, older women, when they have fibroids, immediately they had a hysterectomy. And hysterectomy is still the #1 surgery in this country.
Is that still the first
even
option?
though there are other options.
Because I had one OBGYN who was trying to talk me out of it. She's like, it's just too much. You don't need to go that way. Let's keep everything. I was like, let's just keep the ovaries and keep it moving.
Absolutely.
And a doctor was like, you know what? If you're really tired of this and you're sure you're not going to have any work, I was like, I'm sure. Let's just do it. But those are personal decisions that you go from one woman to the next.
The biggest thing for your viewers I want you to know is there are ways that we can help you manage through, get relief from heavy bleeding, let's say, long-term bleeding or regular bleeding. But if it's also, those fibroids are also accompanied by pressure, bloating, getting up to go to the bathroom more than once in a night, 3, 4, 5 times, and it's messing up your sleep. You're having pain when you're being intimate. You're having pain just trying to reach something in the top shelf.
Just wonder if you can really make it through the day, right? If you know what I mean. Just can we just get through the day with no issues?
Right. So
no
if
surprises.
menopause is going to correct that, you get my point. If menopause is going to take away those symptoms, then maybe you can just plow through.
Right.
But I'm trying to give the doctors that shared with you benefit of the doubt. You know, it is a personal decision, to your point.
Sure,
yeah.
sure. Well, the conversations have to keep going. Is that something, do you even think about those kind of changes yet? You're like, I'm still trying to get to the basics.
I haven't even made it through to that point, but I always wonder, like, okay, I know like our menstrual cycles is a major bodily function, and like birth control stops those kind of things, you know what I mean, in some cases. So I'm like, is this damaging my body, or will this have like a worse effect in the future on my body? Like, I don't know, but it's just, that's just what you do.
That is hard. That's a great question, and people ask it all the time. It is personal, right? Because if that woman has a disease, lupus, let's say, and there's risk to clotting disorders, then we're not going to want to give her birth control. But there are benefits to the birth control pill. I just picked one, right? And birth control pills actually can decrease risk of ovarian cancer, uterine cancer, which plague us more. So it's a personal decision, but it needs to be a one-on-one conversation with your GYN.
And it's great to have options.
Absolutely.
You know, instead of, like you said, the whole hysterectomy thing, having an option and having that conversation with your physician to know that, you know what, that doesn't have to just be my option.
Right. It really does not. It really does not. And that's why it's important, you always say, to have the conversations with your physician. All right.